Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Out of the Wild Blue Yonder. I'm Mark Tate, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Luther King. Luther, how's it going today?
Hey, what's up, Mark? Things are great on my end, but I tell you, as we've been watching the news, my interest have peaked, on these recent food recalls that have occurred due to the salmonella outbreak.
Yeah,
As you know, I love my eggs, so it's something I'm definitely keeping a close eye out on.
right.
But just to, give you what they're talking about, essentially the CDC and the FDA have issued a recall for eggs supplied by Milo's Poultry Farms LLC, which have been linked to 65 cases of salmonella across
Wow.
9 states. So significant recall, significant
Yeah,
issue. So just to give you a couple quick tips on things you should be doing. Number one, you should definitely be checking your eggs. If you have eggs from Milo's Poultry Farms or Tony's Fresh Market, do not consume them. Return them to the store or dispose of them safely. Number two, make sure you're cleaning your eggs thoroughly, washing your surfaces, utensils or containers that may have come in contact with the recalled eggs, using hot soap, water, so again, your refrigerator, your counter, whatever it may be, any dishes, clean those thoroughly.
sure.
Number three, you got to continue to stay informed, so we're providing you with this update, but hopefully you've seen it on your local broadcast, news feed, on your phone, whatever you get your information from. Please stay abreast.
Yeah,
Keep an eye out for any other additional updates. But then number four, if you think you may have some of the symptoms associated with salmonella, just to give you a quick refresher, the symptoms are diarrhea, fever, and stomach cramps. So if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, don't hesitate to contact your doctor and get yourself checked out.
for sure. Wow. That's great advice, Luther. And it's better to be safe and take these precautions seriously. Uh, it could affect your life and somebody else's life in your household. So please heed these words carefully. So
Absolutely.
let's shift into some financial news. So I've been watching the news and I've heard that the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates. They cut them on September 18th, right? And
Yes,
they cut them by 50 basis points, which is the
absolutely.
first time in 4 years that they've done this. And this decision comes, because the Fed is the overall governing body and they control the interest rate in the United States. And they're doing these things to prevent inflation. And on the flip side of that, they are lowering the interest rates in order to stimulate the economy, right? So all of
Absolutely.
this is aimed at that delicate balance between, too much inflation and not enough job growth. And then, the other side of that is a lot of job growth, but a lot of inflation because prices increase. So give us a short take on this Fed cut thing and what it means to the average consumer out there.
And absolutely, Mark. So from a listener standpoint, hey, what can we expect
Yeah,
from the rate cut that has just occurred? So number one, we all should expect lower borrowing costs. So if you're in the market for a house, guess what? Interest rates are falling. If you're in the market for a car, guess what? Auto loans are going to be lower from a rate
yeah,
standpoint. And this is the big one, credit cards.
yeah,
Credit card rates are likely to decrease. Fingers crossed,
yeah,
that they follow
right.
the Fed's advice and lower
Yeah,
those rates. But that's great news, for a lot of consumers out there. I think that's the biggest
that is.
one right there. Ultimately making it cheaper to borrow money. So that should be a big stimulus for the economy. The second one is the impact it could have on your savings strategy. So if you have savings accounts, high yield savings accounts, or CDs, certificates of deposits, you might see a decrease in the yield for those associated with the Fed rate cut. So it's definitely a good time to take a look at your savings strategy. The third one that a lot of folks are probably taking a look at is that stock market reaction. Leading up to it, we're
Yeah,
in the bull market right now, so the market
yeah,
has been running pretty much all year long, up and down, but for the
yeah,
most part, it has been up
yeah,
in anticipation of the
right.
Fed rate cut. So now that the rate cut has occurred, the question is what's going to happen going into this fourth quarter, which we're about to get into right now.
Yeah,
So all indications are the market is going to continue to run some more. We should expect to see
right.
some additional higher returns, but don't forget it's an election year.
Yeah.
It is an election year, so November
That's
could
right.
be a tricky month. So the key is
That's right.
to don't panic, don't
Yeah.
change your strategy,
Right.
keep pressing. If you listened to us earlier, we talked about dollar cost averaging and compound returns. And
Yeah.
so you're continuing to make those consistent contributions and just kind of let it
Right.
ride. Let it ride.
Yeah.
Roll with the ebbs and flows.
That's right.
And
Remain calm.
speaking of the fourth quarter, it's another time to take a look at your portfolio. So if you have a financial advisor, CFP, or a fiduciary, by all means consult with them before making any changes, but it's also a good time to check into them as we go into this fourth quarter. Then the last one is you touched on it earlier, Mark, was the economic outlook. As a result of the Fed rate cuts, this should be a boost or stimulus to the economy. So overall, we all should benefit from this.
Absolutely. Excellent points as always, Luther. One thing that I want to foot stomp there is you cannot minimize the thought process behind balancing that portfolio, like Luther mentioned. For all those folks out there, take a look at your portfolios. It's almost time near the end of the year anyway, and take a look to see if you can balance that a little bit more. You may want to get into a little bit of gold or precious metals, or you may want to get out because they're selling at peaks right now too. They're doing pretty well in the precious metal category. I don't know if they're going to pull back, but it's something you definitely want to keep your eye on how those precious metals are performing right now at multiple year highs. So it's doing pretty wonderful. It's crucial, obviously, for all of our listeners to know about what these things can have as far as an impact on their life. I mean, the rising rates or the lowering of the rates and how the stock market is doing and whatnot. So, hey, I think it's time for us to get into some other stuff, right?
Absolutely, Mark. Let's go ahead and shift gears.
All right.
There's lots of excitement brewing as we head into week 4. I believe we're already getting ready to go into week 4 and week 5 of football.
That's right.
So before we talk about some of these key matchups, hey, why don't you check in on the AP Top 25 standings for us and give us a quick rundown?
Hey, it's looking real good for the SEC, Luther. I tell you, I'm not shocked. I should not be amazed that the SEC is dominating the top 10. We've got Texas at number 1. We've got 6 SEC teams that are in the top 10. Second, Georgia. Then you've got Alabama at 4. You got Ole Miss at 5. Tennessee, Missouri. Oh my gosh. You got a couple of Big Ten teams. What can I say about that, right? We've got 3 Big Ten teams there. Ohio State at number 3, Oregon at 9, and rounding out the top 10 is Penn State at 10. Yeah. Oh, don't forget, though, guess what? The ACC is in the mix for the first time since Clemson dominated here a few years back, right? So Miami is number 8, and they're steadily moving up. So, they are. They're looking good. And I have to say, on the previous podcast, I misspoke and said that Clemson had already played Miami. They did not. They played Georgia. I apologize to all those Clemson fans out there saying that they had lost to Miami. Yes. It still can happen, right?
It can still happen.
Clemson, you can still lose to Miami. All your Clemson fans out there, you guys better buckle up because it's going to be quite a ride for you if you play.
Absolutely.
In the next couple of weeks, you better be ready, buddy. I tell you, and I'm going to shut up. So you can talk a little bit more about what's going on in football, okay?
No. Hey, you hit the nail on the head. The bottom line is the SEC is dominating this season thus far, and they are well represented in the top 10. But guess what? Hey, let's not forget about Oklahoma. A new entry into the SEC. They're sitting in the number 15 spot. And don't forget about LSU. They're in the 16th spot. And closing out the top 25 is the Texas A&M Aggies sitting at number 25. So it's clear that the SEC continues to dominate the college football scene in 2024.
Absolutely. And Luther, speaking on the SEC, let's talk about our favorite teams, right? It's time for us to chat a little bit about Alabama and Auburn. Both teams have crucial matchups in the coming weeks 4 and 5, So let's get into that just for a few moments for those folks out there.
Yes, let's do that. And it'll be quick for me because, hey, guess what? Alabama and Georgia both have a bye in week 4 as they prepare for their matchup in week 5. So I'm just going to leave it right there for now.
Yeah, and on the Auburn side of the house, we play Arkansas this Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that game. Come halftime, I may not be in a good mood, I'll tell you, because Arkansas is looking pretty good. we're going to be playing at home against Arkansas. And this game, I know it is crucial for us to continue that momentum. We're 2-1. We lost to Cal. So, we came back and we beat New Mexico, right? And so we're on the path. And that first game that we had against Alabama A&M, it's just a tune-up game, and everybody knows and understands that, right? So we're coming off that win with New Mexico. New quarterback starting in the position now. Hugh Freeze has got the approval of Paul Feinbaum. And when Paul Feinbaum on ESPN says, hey, this is a good move, you got to listen to this guy because he's pretty much a subject matter expert on SEC football, right?
True
so
statement.
we've got Brown in there as quarterback. He's a redshirt freshman. I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to be performing on Saturday. A lot of people are really anticipating that it's going to be a good game, a very close game. My thing is, though, as Feinbaum mentioned, we've got to look at consistency on the defense. That's one of our problems right now. We got to hold Arkansas to very few points, especially in the first half. And hopefully, and I know hope is not a strategy, right? But I hope we can hold Arkansas to 3 points first half. And then, come back out second. I know, right? It's one of those things, but if we can come back out second half and just continue to hold them to as few as points possible. Of course, we've got to score on the offensive side, but I'm really concerned about that defense and how they're going to hold up against Arkansas. So we'll see. As they say in the old storybooks, time will tell. That's 3:30 on the 21st of September, and probably about 5:30, we'll have a pretty good understanding of how this game is going to be done because it'll probably be about over by then, right?
That's awesome. That's an excellent breakdown of what's happening down in Auburn on the plains, specifically on the Arkansas matchup. So again, I'm looking forward to all the SEC matchups that are going to happen this weekend. Hey, just to give you a quick rundown of some of the other Week 4 matchups that are occurring. We've got Illinois at Nebraska. So Illinois is looking surprisingly well thus far into the season. I think they're sitting at 3-0. Nebraska's undefeated, also 3-0.
Yeah.
So we're getting to that point in the season to where, hey, we've got teams who are undefeated. We're facing undefeated teams, and guess what? One of the two have to lose.
Yeah.
So
right.
We're definitely going to start seeing some shifts in the polls as we've already seen. But I think we're going to see more of it as we go into weeks 4 and 5. Another key matchup is USC at Michigan. I think that'll be a big one, good one to watch. Then the last one is Utah at Oklahoma State. So again, you got a couple undefeated teams squaring up.
Yeah.
And again, somebody's got to lose. But I think the key matchup that we're all anticipating, that we're all going to be watching, and you can hear the dog in the background barking. We've got Tennessee at Oklahoma this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. That is going to be the matchup that we should all be watching. It's definitely highly anticipated. They've both been performing extremely well thus far coming into this point of the season, both undefeated. Both have been putting up significant points against their opponents thus far. So I cannot wait to see these two teams square off against each other. Two of the key things we should be looking for is some continued offensive firepower. Based upon the points they've been putting up 50, 60, 70 points on their opponents thus far. So I'll be excited to see if they can continue to do that against a worthy opponent. Tennessee at Oklahoma. And then the second one is that home field advantage.
Right.
Texas A&M likes to call them the 12th man. Oklahoma and every other team, they have pretty strong fan bases too. So games being played at Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. Oklahoma has home field advantage. That could be a deciding factor in this game.
Oh, yeah. And I'm with you with that home field advantage there. I was stationed out there in Oklahoma City, and I will tell you, Oklahoma fans are a different breed of folks. I mean, these folks are year-round fans. They're not like a Mark Tate who just pulls the flag out for football season. I'm talking about that flag is out year-round for those OU fans. And everywhere you go, you see it. You see the logo. People talk about OU. They talk about Oak State. They talk about that rivalry year-round. But those OU fans, like I say, they are there. They're a diehard breed kind of fan, and they're going to be supporting that team. So it's really going to be tough for those Vols when they walk into that stadium here this Saturday to pull off a defeat. And even if they do win, I believe it's going to be a close match, Luther. I really do,
I hope so.
So we're looking forward to that.
Fingers crossed we get a great matchup.
Absolutely. And, some of the Week 5 matchups that we got to look forward to coming up. Illinois and Penn State, right?
That's
Hey,
going to be a good
that's
one.
going to be a good one. Yeah, that's going to be a good one. And I know Illinois, they're going to be just coming off that game versus Nebraska, right? So,
Exactly.
there's going to be a true test there. If they can
Yes.
continue that momentum, if they
Yes.
beat Nebraska and then they go into
Absolutely.
Penn State,
Wow.
and the other thing, if they can remain healthy after
Yes.
that tough Nebraska game, if you've got those folks, those guys, if they're still healthy, it's going to be a
Mhm.
really close game, a very good game. And next up, Oak State, right? Oklahoma
Yes.
State at Kansas State. That's another good one. We talk about that rivalry between those two states. It's big and it's real, and so that's going to be one to watch. And hey, we can't leave out this Louisville at Notre Dame game either. That's going to be another one. You've got fans, Notre Dame fans, all over the world. I mean,
Yeah,
I've been
it's true.
different places, and it's almost everywhere you go. You're going to see somebody with like a T-shirt on or a sweatshirt that says Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So
Yep.
they've got an excellent fan base. No matter where they are, Louisville's going to have to go to Notre Dame, and they're going to try to take that W. It's going to be hard for Louisville. Very, very difficult. And of course, for me, you've got Oklahoma and Auburn. Hey, that's going to be a Master Blaster game on the 28th of September. Looking forward to that. I will tell you, if Auburn can get through this week, remain healthy, and
Yes.
that quarterback of ours gets that confidence that he needs, if our offensive line can support him, can protect him, and our defense steps up to the level where they need to play, it's going to be a really, really close game. Now, I'm an Auburn fan, War Eagle, but I will tell you that the odds are pretty much stacked against us. The good thing is that we're playing at Auburn, right? And we've got a dynamic quarterback now in that position. They finally gotten that solved. Hugh Freeze is a wonderful coach. So we'll see how we're going to face this tough challenger against Oklahoma. It's going to be a true test of our capabilities, and it will be the defining moment of our season, I believe, because this is going to set us on that path, whether it be a good path or a bad path. But we're going to see more to follow on that. And back over to you, Luther.
Okay. Hey, that's an excellent rundown of some of the Week 5 matchups. But guess what? There's one more we need to talk about. Drum roll, please. We've got Georgia
right.
at Alabama on
Woo!
Saturday, September the 28th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. This is a matchup that you typically don't see until the end of the season in
Yeah,
the SEC championship. But guess what?
that's
They're
right.
squaring off against each other. Week 5, they're both coming off 5 weeks. So this is for sure one of the most highly anticipated rivalries in college football, and for sure 2024 matchups that everybody has been waiting for.
Yeah.
It's just going to be super exciting. Again,
Yeah.
classic SEC battle
Yeah.
against two Titans. To say it's going to be thrilling is an understatement. I'm expecting an absolutely phenomenal game. And here's the big takeaway.
Yeah.
Alabama of recent has been Georgia's Achilles heel. For some reason, Georgia has struggled when they played against Alabama. That
Right.
was when Coach Saban had the helm. We've
Yep.
got Kellen DeBoer now. We will see if Kirby Smart has a game plan, if he can draw up a game plan to get
Right.
over the top. Time will tell, but I
Yeah.
cannot wait until September the 28th to see that matchup. Hey, a couple of key points I think we need to cover as we look forward to this game. Again, two defensive powerhouses. So I'm expecting nothing less in this game, a true test on the defensive side of the ball. And I think one of the key game changers or difference makers are going to be turnovers. So who can capitalize off turnovers, generate turnovers, and potentially allow your defense to score? Then we can't forget about special teams, so it's those small things. It's every player on the field doing their job. When you're facing tough opponents, that's who comes out on top. Then, of course, we've got home field advantage. We're not playing on neutral territory, in Georgia for the SEC championship, even though it's home field advantage for Georgia. We are playing in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Benny Chimes Stadium on Saban Field. So that could be a deciding factor. Time will tell. It truly is a toss-up because, any given Saturday when these two teams play, either one could win. Just of late, Alabama has been winning. So we'll see. I'm excited.
For sure. No doubt. I'm looking forward to that game,
Excited.
too.
I know you are. I know you're looking forward to it. Hey, there are tons of exciting football games happening again in week
Yeah.
4. We kind of covered that. Week 5, some epic matchups.
Right.
And really all I can say is, hey, roll tide. Roll tide.
War Eagle. We'll see.
Okay, that was an excellent opportunity to catch up on college football. Now let's
Sure.
go ahead and shift gears and get into our main topic. So if you've been sticking with us, you know this is the 3rd installment in our Squadron Commander series. So
Yeah.
first episode, part 1, we covered the first 60 days of command. In part 2, we talked about everything after day 60 up until the end of that first year. And now we're going to pick it up at day 366 and take it through day 545. And saying, Luther, why are you talking about these days? What are you talking about? Essentially what I'm saying is Squadron commands typically change in the June or July timeframe. So for planning purposes, we're going to say June timeframe. So what we're going to go for today is June to December of that second year. June to December as you're starting that second year of command. And we're going to, keeping with the theme, we're going to provide some success tips or strategies for success. I'll cover a few, Mark will cover a few, and then we'll go from there. You'll probably see us jumping in on each other's comments, adding some additional context. Hey, but I'm going to start things off with this first tip, and it's really all about finding a healthy work-life harmony. What do you mean by that,
Yeah.
Luther? So again, we said, hey, it's June time frame. It's peak summer. It's typically when folks are trying to take leave, summer vacations. So it's absolutely paramount that you lead by example. You just completed a year of command. You're probably tired. You need to take some leave as well. So, hey, be a leader, lead by example, and take some leave. It's a great opportunity to give your operations officer an opportunity to sit in the seat, preparing them for command when they're ultimately selected for that opportunity. So delegate that authority, give that operations officer a chance to sit in the seat, take some time, wind down, recharge your batteries, spend some time with your family, and come back to the squadron ready to tackle this second year. If you lead by example, hey, your rest of your folks in the organization will do the same thing. And this is how you can ensure they're doing it. So don't wait until the end of the fiscal year to look at that use-lose leave balance. This is a perfect time to take a look at it in June, see how are we looking from a use-lose standpoint, send out some reminders, mention it in staff meetings, have point-to-point conversations with your flight commanders and squadron leadership, and encourage those folks to take leave, spreading it out across the year. Obviously, workload is mission dependent. I'm not saying skip out on anything significant or critical you have going on, but if the time is available, absolutely allow your folks to take the leave and work with your squadron leadership to come up with a plan so everybody isn't trying to take leave at the same time.
Absolutely, Luther. And just to chime in there real quick, if you take one day of leave, that doesn't really count as leave because all you're doing is you're trying to say, yeah, I'm taking leave, but I'm just taking one day here or there. It helps if you take just a bigger chunk, maybe 3 days. Maybe your schedule only permits 3 days, but please take more than one day of leave because that's really not enough time for you to recharge your batteries like you really need to.
Yes.
And also, you need to demonstrate that you do have that trust in their leadership for them to be able to take the wheel, be in control while you're away. Now, you're not going to be gone for an extended period of time, so you don't have to worry about G-Series orders transferring over or anything like that. Just remember, though, like Luther said, this is going to promote and encourage that healthy work-life harmony and balance that you need.
Absolutely. Hey, real quick, I'm going to give you one more insider tip. This is a bonus. So if you're in contention for a second command, so process this. If you're in the seat, you're trying to start your second year of command, and guess what? You're being considered for a second squadron command. It could be a 1-year remote, or it could be another full 2 years of command. So this is another opportunity to, hey, pace yourself to what you're about to embark on, not only for this last year, but the next 2 years. Plan your leave out accordingly. Don't just allow your leave to build up. Allow yourself to get burnt out, and then you're dreading command, or you're wanting to potentially opt out of it because you need to recharge your batteries because you didn't take advantage of the leave you had put that trust and confidence in your squadron leaders and give them an opportunity to lead in your absence so you could take leave and recharge your batteries. Okay,
Absolutely.
I've said enough on that one. Let's move on to the second one. Okay, we said it was summertime. Here's June, July, August. Peak of summer, guess what? Everybody's trying to get outdoors. Everybody's trying to enjoy themselves, participating in a multitude of activities, water sports, you name it. And guess what comes with that? Increased opportunities for mishaps and accidents. So this is a perfect time to emphasize summer safety. This is a foot stomp.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Emphasize the safety. Work with the wing safety office and the group safety office to figure out, okay, what are statistics? Look at your own units, specific statistics as to when mishaps has occurred. You'd be amazed at the information you can glean from looking at historical data. I'm not saying that history is the key to what's going to happen in the future, but it gives you an idea if you can see if there's a trend that accidents typically increase during the summer months, which they typically do across DOD and definitely within the Air Force. No different. So this is an opportunity to foot stomp it and just re-emphasize it. And I'll share a personal story with you. So during my time in Alaska, we had limited or short summer periods.
Yeah.
They typically coincided with the salmon runs. So for an avid outdoorsman to be able to take advantage of that salmon run without taking leave, and at the same time trying to work, hey, we had this thing that folks call, the Alaska grind. Folks would, no kidding, work a 10 or 12-hour shift at work, jump in their vehicles, drive 2+ hours to the river, fish all night, and turn around, jump back in their vehicles, drive 2-3 hours back straight to work without any rest. I mean, just imagine the risk that folks were assuming, just to be able to take advantage of those, outdoor activities, because they were so focused on, hey, this is my limited window. I've got to be able to enjoy this, but they were forgetting about that safety aspect. So thankfully, we didn't have any mishaps, but there were definitely mishaps and incidents in other squadrons and other organizations on the base, because it was somewhat prevalent, so it was really eye-opening to me to see this, and I definitely learned a lot, and I definitely took it to heart, and it really helped me emphasize personal safety. We have to really educate our folks on how to develop a safety plan, if you will. How do we prevent mishaps from happening, even in something as simple as planning your summer vacation? It was just something that we had to reemphasize. I'd rather you take leave, us go without a person or two on shift, than for you to try to drive 2-3 hours fish and drive straight back to work and then jump in a 60K loader and go load an aircraft and have a mishap. I mean, we didn't want that. Or God forbid you have an accident trying to drive back, and do bodily harm to yourself. So emphasize safety. Mark, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, great point about the safety aspect of it. In command, there are a couple of things that will get you fired. And I think having an overall attitude within your squadron that people can take a lot of risks and not be as safe as they need to be, that's one of the main reasons why squadron commanders get fired. So please focus on that. And it's not just so you won't get fired, quote unquote. It's for, the lives of the folks that are under your command, because this stuff has very serious repercussions. One small accident can hurt, injure more than just that one person who is operating that vehicle. It could injure dozens of people, cost millions of dollars in damage. So you really want to focus and key in on that safety aspect, just like Luther mentioned, because it is very important. I just can't emphasize it enough, just like he can't emphasize it enough to really focus in on that safety aspect of things and making sure everybody is coming into work safe and leaving there safe, and also enjoying themselves over the summer breaks and everything safely.
Excellent. Hey, I appreciate those additional comments, Mark. Okay, hey, moving on to my third tip. We kind of talked about this one in the other 2 episodes as well, because it's an iterative process. You're building upon it. It's something you're constantly doing. And guess what? You're starting the second year. This is another great opportunity to reassess any squadron priorities you may have put in place to ensure you're aligned with your group priorities, wings priorities, your major command priorities. So ensure that you're in line with higher headquarters. So perfect opportunity to reassess squadron priorities. So those initial goals you set at the start of the command, they may need adjusting depending on the mission, depending on the environment. Things could have changed. This is a perfect opportunity to do some fine tuning, some tweaking, whether it's optimizing resources, preparing for that inspection, that audit.
Right.
This is a great opportunity to do kind of an assessment and see, okay, are we on track or do we need to make some tweaks or adjustments?
That's so true, Luther. And, that dovetail right into what I was going to say about reviewing the outcomes of those strategic offsites. Very, very important. We talked about doing that strategic offsite with your leadership team. And at this stage, you should be reviewing those outcomes. And it should be more than just something you spend a day or two doing and compiling that information. You should really take a look at that and try to implement some of those strategies that you've identified, and also put timelines against those things that need to get done. The other part of that offsite is going to be continuing to foster the open communication that came about during that strategic offsite. You may have found that some of your leaders within the squadron had some different opinions and points, and you always want to make sure that you don't suppress any of that. You want to make sure that you continue to encourage that open conversation so that you all can get a lot of things done. The offsite, of course, is one of those other opportunities where you can actually identify some of the legacy things that you want to remain after you've departed. In the offsite, in what you identify as some of those priorities, they probably won't be solved just in your 2 years of being in command. An example I had is when I arrived at one of my commands, we had a lingering audit report that was in the process of being fixed, but it wasn't completed yet, when I got there. So part of my command revolved around me trying to continue that process of fixing those due outs that we needed to make sure they were all corrected. And so I did that throughout the remaining part of my command. And guess what? When I was done with that command, I still had a little bit left that the next commander had to ensure was completed. So I say that to emphasize the point that as you identify these priorities and your strategies, please put things in place so that they can be monitored over the course of not only your command, but in subsequent commands from different people. Anything else to add with that, Luther?
No, that's excellent, Mark. I'd like to pose a question back to you as we have this discussion on offsites, but hopefully you picked up on it in Mark's comments in the previous episodes. In Luther's mind, in an ideal state, you would have 2 offsites during your 2-year command. That's what we're advocating for. And I know I won't say there will be some resistance. You're definitely going to get some help with this because your group commander more than likely is going to want to have an offsite too. The wing is going to more than likely have an offsite too. The wing commander is going to have to go to a MAGCOM offsite. So ideally these things would nest together. But here's the key: more than likely it's not going to happen. The world just isn't perfect. Things aren't going to always align the way you want them to be. So I think the onus is on you to lead your squadron, set specific priorities for your squadron. Again, not trying to get in front of your group or in front of your wing or our headquarters, but there are things that you have to put in place for your organization. Your squadron can absolutely benefit from having an offsite tailored to your mission, your focus, your vision, your priorities. That's 2 offsites during a 2-year plan. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
I agree with you 100%. And as you were talking, I made myself a note so that I wouldn't forget to emphasize this point as well. Your commander's calls are very, very important. My recommendation is you try to shoot for at least 1 per month, and in those commander's call, that is where you actually pass along your strategies and your thoughts on the future to everybody in your squadron, not just your senior leaders, but down to the lowest airmen and your civilian workforce as well, because they're all important. And those commanders' calls are a perfect way to let them know what's going on in the squadron, what the future holds, and just to recognize folks as well. So I emphasize that point, and you can talk about your commanders' calls in the strategic offsite and how you want those to look and some changes that you all need to make so that your commanders' calls are very productive for people. Because one of the things that people hate, right, is wasting their time. No matter if it's a 30-minute commander's call or hour commander's call, if you don't have good material to pass along to the folks, they're going to feel like that you've wasted their time. So please focus in on your commander's calls. Give them a lot of time, in your planning efforts for those. Make sure that they're executed properly and seamlessly. And in that way, you can really get to the crux of any kind of issues that you have going on, any information you want to pass along to all your troops. So focus and emphasize that the commander's call is going to be your number one way of communicating throughout your folks as to what's going on in your unit. Anything else on that, Luther?
Make sure you are reaching the lowest airman. Make sure you're doing your best to communicate, that information to every member of your organization. So that means you need to have a commander's call at 1930, at 2100 or 2300 hours, whatever the time may be. You adjust to ensure you're reaching every airman. And here's another insider tip. After you have those commander's calls, I used to always love to walk around to the sections and ask questions and see, okay, did this information actually make it down? Was this person actually in attendance? They said I saw their name on the sheet, but did they pay attention? Just probe. And it was just another opportunity to have a conversation with your folks, another opportunity to get to know them, and another opportunity to make sure information was flowing down. So kind of hitting them with the information in the commander's call, walk around there in the sections, give it to them another time. Then your coach, you're sharing same information in your staff meeting. So after 2 or 3 times, hey, information typically tends to sink in. So that's just another insider tip to make sure information is flowing, especially when it's important information that could have implications, not only for them personally, but also for them being able to do their job effectively.
Right. And hey, I really love the fact that you emphasize the point there. Your commander's calls sometimes are not just going to be at a specific time during the day. You may have to do multiple commander's calls. And because you think about it, it's not for you, it's for your troops. So you probably will have a day shift and a night shift that you need to really get out and touch. And also, it will make the night shift feel a little bit of love as well, because oftentimes they're the last ones out. They're the odd ones out because they're working mids or swings or grave shift, and nobody comes to see them. Nobody wants to talk to them. At least that's how they feel, right? So you do want to manage or lead, of course, by walking around at those particular shifts and passing along that information. And as you said, Luther, asking them questions based on what you just talked about in your commander's call. So that's going to be very important. And this leads also into fostering that squadron camaraderie, right? This is one thing that can't be overlooked, is those conversations that you have with those folks, and the activities that you have with everyone, such as the barbecues and ice cream socials and things like that. Most squadrons and groups that I've been part of, they've had some kind of social arm to it. Now this is independent of the squadron itself, but they've been able to work very closely with the squadron commander to have these kind of events. They're like the fundraisers of the organization, and they go through legal, and they have a structure all in place for that. So one of the key things is you want to check with the folks in your squadron to see if they have something like that set up, which is set up as a nonprofit, but they're there really to help out with those major events like the squadron socials, the squadron barbecues or whatnot. Team building, of course, is a wonderful way to build morale and strengthen those relationships. So can't emphasize that enough. We're not just talking about the offsite with senior leaders. We're talking about with everybody, okay? Because a squadron that has fun together works better together. And you should always, as a commander, be looking for those opportunities to bring your team closer, especially during the summer months. So make sure you create opportunities for your team to unwind and bond. And even in the days of winter, make sure that you get creative in ways that you guys can get together and have some kind of socials there. Of course, people always do the holiday party, and they many times they do a Thanksgiving get together as well. Those are some of the key things I know during those colder months that you really want to focus on. Anything else to add to that?
That was spot on. Thanks. And
A lot of good stuff.
Notes. Go back, hit rewind, and hear what Mark just gave you guys. This is good stuff.
That's right. And and to round things out, I know I've spoke a lot about these different things, but focus on those annual awards, okay? Now is the time, during this time frame that we're looking at here, you're going through a whole year of command,
exactly.
And you've got to really highlight the wonderful things that your folks have done in the squadron. So you really want to put some time into those annual awards. You would really want to lean into this process, and you want to make sure that those supervisors out there are documenting the performance of their star performers, And this is something that just shouldn't happen the last month before the awards are due, everybody's panicking and they're looking around to say, well, who can we submit for this particular award?
Exactly.
This is a very organized process that probably should have started in January of the year. If you're doing things right, you will have identified some things about your star performers. And now, of course, communication is paramount here. You want to make sure that you have a level playing field, and there are no such thing as the golden children, so to speak. You want to divvy this out in equal measure to identify who those performers are. But you want to be very logical and very methodical about the process and what it involves. This is really, from my opinion, this is something that the supervisors have a huge role in doing, focusing in on those annual awards early, and they have a huge impact on your folks really getting recognized at the individual level, and also for the major unit awards as well. So you should have some documentarian or somebody taking notes in all the major things that have been done, so you don't have to scratch your head near the end of the year trying to figure out, well, what have we done so that we can submit for this organizational award.
Outstanding advice. Only thing I'll just foot stomp is, again, you're a logistics readiness officer. You're in a LRS, an aerial report squadron. Hey, your folks are doing phenomenal work.
Yeah, they are.
Supporting the wing and generating the mission. So
That's right.
every award category, you should have a person getting submitted, whether it's an individual award or if it's a unit award, you should be submitting a package for every award category that you are eligible for. Because guess what? You all have done the work. You earned that right to be nominated for that award. So just can't foot stomp that enough. Because every category, every quarter, every year, you should be putting in a package. And as Mark said, it's something you should be working on throughout the year so you can submit quality packages and have a good opportunity of potentially bringing home that award. So your folks can reap the benefits of all the hard work and effort that they put into doing the job. Hey, guess what? Now they're getting accolades for it because they're recognized. They're a MAGCOM level award winner or potentially an Air Force level award winner because of the great work they're doing generating the mission.
And Luther, I know we're going to have another podcast on this, but we can't emphasize this enough, right? Because when it comes time for promotions, and both of us have sat on promotion boards, it's very important. Those awards, those individual awards that people are able to earn throughout their career, at the end of the day, they do mean something. It is very helpful when you're looking at somebody's performance report and you're making a decision because you only have so much amount of time to score that, right? And you see where they've won, individuals won so many different awards at various levels. So that's something that's going to be very helpful for folks in your organization, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, well, no, we're probably approaching that transition point. Only thing I'll leave you with is this half of that year. It's all about fine tuning, making sure your squadron is aligned, making sure you recognize your people so you can continue to make the mission happen and reward your people where they've earned it.
Yeah, exactly, Luther. At this stage in your command, it's all about maintaining that consistency while preparing for the future, right? You got to keep the squadron motivated and always look for opportunities to improve, for sure.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, we'll transition now to our health and wellness tip of the week, gut health, right? So today we're focusing on this, and you want to kick us off, Luther, with some serious knowledge, because I know you are a researcher and you are always able to find out exactly what we need to do in order to make sure that we're living and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So over to you.
Absolutely, Mark. I do appreciate that. And what I'm trying to do is provide, health and wellness tips that we've learned through examples.
Yeah.
We talked about Squadron Command. We talked about, 2-year grind. We talked about taking leave to recharge your batteries. But one of the challenges or potential consequences of it is that increased stress from being in command, which could lead to gut issues. One of the things you typically see when you're facing high stress environments is, you start to have these outlying health conditions or issues arise. If you can figure out how to hone in on that gut health, and get those microbiomes right, it can ultimately help you balance things out. So we want to take a few moments to talk about that today and all the different roles that, having an optimal gut health plays in life, mental and physical standpoint.
Absolutely. And gut health has been linked to issues such as obesity, diabetes, mental health disorders like depression and anxiety.
So what are some of the things that we can do? We talk about nutrition, things you consume, and we also talk about lifestyle changes we can do. Before we get into those, hey, let's take a few seconds to break down prebiotics and probiotics. I'll start with probiotics. Probiotics essentially are live, beneficial bacteria that are found in certain foods and supplements. They help maintain or improve the balance of the good bacteria in your gut. So common food sources where you can find probiotics are yogurt, sauerkraut, and other fermented foods like kimchi. So these are positive things that you can consume to help ensure you have the right balance of good bacteria. Okay, prebiotics. What are
So
prebiotics?
I got a question for
Yes,
you though, Luther. I got a question. What about that kombucha juice that people drink? Is that going to help out the folks out there? Can they just take a good swig of that and get the probiotics they need in some cases?
that's a great question, Mark. I'm not an expert on kombucha, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it does have probiotics in it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it has
Excellent.
prebiotics. Definitely read the label, see what you're consuming. So one of the ways companies have started inserting more healthy options into our beverages is through adding probiotics, prebiotics into these beverages. So kombucha, I'm pretty sure it has probiotics and it may have something else in it. I'm not the expert on. Okay, so we talked about
That's cool.
probiotics. We talked about those beneficial bacteria, the good bacteria that's in our body. Let's take a few seconds to talk about prebiotics. Essentially, are types of dietary fiber that feed the friendly bacteria in your gut. So probiotics, good bacteria. Prebiotics are the food that feed the good bacteria. It's helping them thrive and function effectively. And when everything is functioning properly, hey, you have healthy bodily function and everything's working properly. Prebiotics are found in high fiber foods like what do we always talk about? Fruits and vegetables and whole grains. That's where you get your fiber. So in essence, probiotics are the beneficial bacteria. Prebiotics are the foods that help these bacteria grow and stay active. But the goal is to have optimal gut health. And if you're starting to have some issues in some other areas, like Mark mentioned, your immune system, potentially gaining weight, or some skin conditions flaring up or occurring, you never know, it could be linked to your gut health. So that's one way to kind of get things out in, have that conversation with your doctor, make sure everything's okay and work it from a gut standpoint. But if you want to be proactive, if you want to try to do some things to help yourself out, you can consume the foods that we just talked about. Again, yogurts, sauerkrauts, kimchi, fermented foods from a probiotic standpoint, and of course, high fiber foods like fruits and vegetables and whole grains. Whole foods, things we promoted pretty much in every episode. They're going to help ensure you have optimal gut health.
It's awesome.
Okay.
Well, what about supplements? What do you think about that,
Yeah,
Luke?
that's a great question, Mark. I'm a strong proponent for consuming your nutrients through whole foods, but I also personally supplement. Just make sure you consult with your doctor or physician. Me personally, I've had some success with green powders, and then also a pill form when it comes to products that contain probiotics and prebiotics. So two brands, just to share, what Luther takes or has taken in the past. I've taken Garden of Life probiotics, so it's a capsule. I've had good results from those in the past. And Amazing Grass Greens, it's a green powder. I just added that to a scoop of protein powder, add 8 ounces plus of water, shake it up. When you're getting your protein, you're getting some additional vitamins and minerals and probiotics from that Amazing Greens powder. So that's just inside tip, something that Luther does. But again, you can get it all from your Whole Foods by all means. I'll just foot stop. Before you try anything new, please consult with your individual healthcare provider or physician to make sure it's working for your system.
Roger that, and of course, in terms of lifestyle, stress and exercising, we've emphasized this in just about every podcast we've had, will make a huge difference. They will. If you exercise regularly, it will reduce stress, and it has been chronic stress, of course. has been shown to negatively affect your gut. So mindfulness practices and meditation and these physical activities that we always mention all contribute to better gut health. So emphasize that. Get out there, do some walking, do something, just get moving. Okay. Just do something routinely. Set up a regular exercise schedule for yourself.
Also, staying hydrated is
Yeah.
crucial. We talked about that in the past too, but drinking
Right.
plenty of water aids digestion and helps maintain a
Mhm.
healthy balance of bacteria. And of course, avoid overusing antibiotics. And again, that's something that's typically prescribed from your
Yeah.
physician. And I know doctors are well aware of this too. As we continue to progress in time and we have new strains of bacteria that come about and, antibiotics aren't working as good as they can, so that's why
Yeah.
they're less prone to prescribe antibiotics unless they absolutely have to. So just take that into mind,
Yeah.
as you're going about, life. And if a doctor recommends antibiotics, just double check to make sure, okay, do you really think they're necessary? And again, you'll have an idea if you're trying to fight something and hey, you're not getting over it, doing your usual routines, consuming your whole foods, whatever, you're not getting there fast enough. Then that's when you go to the doctor.
For sure, Luther. And all great tips. Taking care of your gut is so very important, to create that healthy environment for your body so that it can function at an optimal level. So remember, you need to eat well, you need to stay active, and you need to manage the stress that you have in your life in some positive way. Positive way now.
That's awesome. Okay, hey, we definitely appreciate you all listening to us today
Yeah.
or watching us on
Yeah.
YouTube. If you found us, we hope you found our discussion helpful and informative because that's our goal. If
Right.
you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on all the platforms where audio podcasts are available, such as Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on X or Twitter at OOTW Blue Yonder. As I just mentioned, we're on YouTube at Out of the Wild Blue Yonder. And then lastly, hey, if you have any comments for us, if you have any questions you'd like to ask us, or guess what, you'd like to be a guest on this podcast, we would love to have you. Just send us an email to comments at outofthewildblueyonder.com.
For sure. Until next time, stay motivated and keep pushing forward.